tell the world who you are and what you do, brother.
My name's Jayce Wheeler. I'm from Seattle, Washington originally. I breed American-style Corsos and just kind of dove into the game with those dogs. Originally started with a couple import dogs and worked my way to the American side of them.
Okay, so for the listeners, and I've heard this, excuse me, I've heard this whole topic 100 times over, but I want to get your take on it. What is the difference between an American Corso and an Italian Corso?
I think they have somewhat of the similar blends and some of the bloodlines, but yet still far away from each other. Like I said, I've had the import dogs and a numerous amount of American dogs. And when I had the import dogs, I was in the show business and, showed a couple dogs, championed them out, whatever. But I seen with a lot of the import dogs is they had a more undershot jaw and more resemblance to a boxer style or a dog du Bordeaux. Some even I seen of like more of a Presa Canario phenotype and jaw head structure. Mm-hmm. Just kind of depends on the lines, obviously, too. There's a big variety. But then when I ended up transferring over to the American dogs due to having to call out about 4 dogs out of my program that I started with. I never bred them. But I ended up running into problems with the dogs. The dogs were... I started just jumping into health testing to see how these dogs scored and what they looked like. So I ended up getting an OFA heart check on one of the males that I championed out that was an import, and ended up having a ventricular arrhythmia with that male dog. And, he could have grown out of it or he could have possibly collapsed and died at any time. So I ended up putting him in a pet home, calling that dog out of the program. And then I ended up getting another dog from a similar bloodline that was already purchased before I found out he had a heart problem, which was a female. And the dog was, acting right for the most part, but was pretty close related where I didn't want to run into that problem. Mm-hmm. The dog did have the means to work, and the dog, I never showed that female dog, but she did, show good attributes of working and stuff, but still an undershot, boxer-styled head structure. Other than that, the dog was pretty decent, but it just wasn't the type of dog that I was trying to produce. The dog just didn't necessarily fully have the phenotype that I liked. And that was pretty much the main part. Was everything that I was seeing was more of like a boxer type resemblance, dog du Bordeaux, and I seen more problems, epilepsy and stuff like that. And I kind of just, dove into the American side really. Mm-hmm. And when I went to the American side, I ended up getting a dog from Jimmy at Rough House, from off of Kratos and Shady. And I got a dog from there, and I had him till he was about 17 weeks old. He ended up having some issues. I ended up having to call him out and put him down and stuff. But that's when I dove into the American side, really, with the dogs. And I started, assembling different dogs from different people. I got a dog ended up getting a female that I still have from David Wenrich. And that dog, once I got her, I dove back into the dogs deep, because once I put the dog from Jimmy down, I was kind of bummed out. Mm-hmm. And when I got the female from David, I dove back in and, fell in love with that dog. And I mean, the dog's just phenomenal. The way it performs, the way it works is different than any dogs that I've had, Mm-hmm. And I just kind of fell in love with it. The bite was perfect. The phenotype was what I was looking for. The prey drive on the dog was just immense. The natural instinct to hunt. I mean, I didn't even spend time with the dog to where the dog could stalk prey and run it down in a situation where it had no outs, just like
right.
the demeanor and the thought process of setting a hunt up, the dog naturally had it, and when I seen that and then put the dog on some man work and the dog just performed, and that's what I was looking for, and pretty much hooked me right then.
Right. Well, I will say, professionally, me and David have had some small minor issues, but I will say that aside, from when I talked to him and when I seen what he had going on, for the record, I will say he does have phenomenal dogs.
Oh yes, most definitely.
I know he personally doesn't like me. I never really figured out why, but it is what it is. I really don't care.
It's the dog world. It's the dog world.
I don't give a shit. I just, honestly, I'm glad I talked to you. I'm glad you're on record, because I will put this on record. The reason, David, if you're listening, I wish you nothing but the best. God bless you. But it was the fact that you were speaking on one of my club members, and I couldn't have that. Loyalty over everything. But
most definitely.
So what, I don't know, man. His dogs, just from what I've seen, those are some tough animals, man. They are tough as nails. I'll give the man that, man. But outside of that, give me a little more on what you've noticed as far as, okay, so from my understanding, from just what I've gathered, I'm not a Corso professional expert and nothing like that, right? But it came from the American lines, originated from a cross, correct?
Yeah, from what has been gathered and what I've talked to David about and stuff, and what I've seen personally. So, just to jump back a little bit right here, like I said, the first dog that I acquired in the recent years, since I've put my yard together, is an import dog. I don't breed her; she's just a pet. But when I got her, I ended up getting her with my mom and stuff, and she ended up not being able to have the dog, and so I took her on. But she ended up she's all black, but she ends up having brindle points too. So which is obviously a little bit of Roddy in there or some sort. But yeah, so the assemble was the Rot, Neo, and the Pit, and whatever which way. Obviously, I'm sure different people have put different things at different times. Different mixtures of Pit and Rot, as you see the wetter and heavier phenotypes and the drier types. But yes,
what do you? Let me cut you off. What do you mean wetter types and drier types? I've never heard that before.
Wetter is more heavier Neo style dogs, and then a slimmer, drier, tighter dog, which is more resemblance of a Pit or a Roddy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which varies obviously through different American parts.
Okay, makes perfect sense. How much, honestly, in your opinion, when you're looking at the American line, if you have an answer, how much Neo is actually the influence? Do you think it's more than the other two, or do you think it was a third? Like, when you're looking at an American Corso, what's your breakdown if you were just to guess?
That varies quite a bit from the different lines and stuff. Like I said, I acquired that dog from David, which is one of my favorite dogs, and then I ended up acquiring a couple other really key important dogs that were, I don't know if you've heard of the Brick City line, Corso's American side. So I acquired some heavy hitter dogs from the Brick City side, or pretty much one of the last good Brick City dogs left. And I acquired those, and now those dogs are very heavy resemblance of Neo and Roddy on that side. To the point where it's like, okay, the male that I have is like, I can go back and look at old pictures of Neos, and I'm like, dude, this dog is pretty much a Neo, to a point. But also, okay, here's the Roddy in him, and the stuff that comes off both those dogs, the litter that I had off them, is like, okay, I'm seeing some heavy Neo and I'm seeing heavy Roddy, in different forms from the rear end. The dogs have great rear ends, resemblance to Roddy. In the coats is just, I haven't seen anyone else produce the coats that came off of that litter. I mean, maybe a couple people have a dog here or a dog there that have a coat that are somewhat like it, but I mean, the whole litter, the coats are just phenomenal, and it just resemblance of a Rottie. But then the phenotype is, the heaviness is from the Neo, so it's like, holy cow. So those dogs are a heavier side of Neo, I think. It's just like, it's pretty obvious, but there's other American dogs where, okay, you got a more tighter, heavier driven dog on the pit side. You'll start to watch the dog work like a pit, so it just kind of depends on what breeding and what pairing will bring out different parts.
Sure. But honestly, some of these American Corsos, man, it was almost like the perfect storm.
Oh yes, exactly.
Now, let me ask you this. Well, first off, you said you're located in Arizona, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Arizona now.
Arizona is hot as balls.
Oh yeah.
How do your dogs fare in that weather?
When I got here, the day I got here, which was about half a week ago, the dogs were pretty toasty. On the way down here, I took a big cargo van and loaded up the kennels and the dogs and stuff, and it was pretty toasty. Like going through Vegas, it was about 90 something at 11 p.m. at night, and yeah, it was toasty. But for the past, these last couple days, the dogs have adapted to it, which was really surprising. I thought it was going to take longer, but I've been having them out here running around, and obviously I want them to adapt to it and get used to it. Mm-hmm. So far, so good, and
Nice.
Yeah, it took a couple days at least for them to really kind of adapt to it.
Right. And with that in mind, what is your average, weight range for your males and females?
So the stud that I have, he's probably about 120. I had another American male off of the second breeding I did, and he was about 130. They're both about 120, 130 at their heavy times, Mm-hmm. Obviously, when females are in heat, they're not eating as much, but about 120 to 130.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That sounds ideal.
Yeah.
For a big dog to not be so big, that sounds about right. So, yeah. Walk me through a little bit of your feeding regimen.
Okay, so I've done numerous. Feed was a big thing for me, and that's what I have changed a lot over time. And I originally started out, I was feeding Victor just a kibble when I very first started with the import female I had. But she was really picky, maybe because she was open fed when my mom had her from newborn to 6 months old. Mm-hmm. And then she wouldn't put on any weight. She was only about 70 pounds at a year and a half. And I was all right. I tried to switch it up, and I went to raw, and I tried, just beef liver and different mixtures with some chicken feet, beef kidney, oats and stuff like that. Dog really didn't take to it. Super picky eater. And I kept with it and tried different ways of grinding it up, grinding the bone in there, and a bunch of different stuff so she had all the nutrients. And eventually she started eating more, and I acquired more dogs, and I stuck kind of to the raw and would just do mass cases of beef heart, mixture with beef kidney, beef liver, green tripe, and oats. And that was the main thing. And I also used New Pro, which David put me on to the New Pro. That's a great supplement. That's what I've stuck to. And then when I got to the puppies, David put me on the diamond purple puppy bag, and then obviously transfer them to raw and add that in eventually after they started getting older. So I've stuck to the raw side. And then I started breeding a lot of rabbits, giant chinchillas and stuff like that. And I even butcher and eat the rabbits. And I was like, all right, well, I'll acquire that into the dog's diet. That's a good meat, and it's a smaller bone to kind of deal with and break down. So I started switching up and putting rabbit in there most of the time. And then as time went on, I was like, all right, well, let's get into some cost effectiveness. And then I started going to just Walmart. I mean, the deal there was just crazy. So the 10-pound bag of leg quarters, and I pretty much based it off the stuff in there because per pound it was so cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm very much a fan of survival and homesteading and things like this. And I've been hearing more and more that people are, especially people with smaller properties, are ditching chickens outside of, egg-laying chickens and going more for the rabbits. Like, talk a little bit more about, breeding rabbits.
So the rabbit, I got into the rabbits, my parents, and they have a little farm that they homestead off of, and they got into the rabbits, and we, that's what we ate for meals a lot of the time was rabbit and duck, and I just took to the rabbit. Not too much of a chicken fan. I love chickens, but not too much of into eating chicken. I don't like it as much, and so I took off with the rabbit, and the rabbits were just fun, and can put them in a smaller area, and just being able to butcher them was a lot easier. You weren't dealing with feathers, and the quality of the meat and the way they breed was just phenomenal to be able to produce a mass amount of meat, but easy to butcher in a quick amount of time and grow them out. So that's what I jumped to it.
I've never actually tried rabbit. If you could compare the meat to anything, what does it taste like?
Close to chicken. Obviously, I like to do a ground taco, grind it up and use it as taco meat. But, close to chicken, but I think it's better than chicken.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Man, noted. We, I'm in Myrtle Beach. I'm in South Carolina, and I can get rabbits anytime. And I have a small backyard. I'm actually working on getting it fenced. And I was thinking of making a small area for rabbits. That would save a fuck ton of money.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. That's what I was doing for a while when I had a mass amount of them for a little bit. It was a little bit overboard with the amount of rabbits that I had. But, that's what I was doing was just, dressing out a rabbit real quick and then, toss some whole rabbits for a time period. And in the summertime, I would, go to more, a leaner diet, which was the rabbit. That's what I was doing, was just tossing them rabbits in there. And then the puppies came, and so obviously got to introduce them to the more raw side.
All right, so let's touch on supplements. Do you use any kind of supplements regularly as far as hip, joint, skin, anything like that?
So when I dove into the import stuff at first, I was into that, like I said, those dogs, some of them produced more problems as I was watching them, so I was more kind of eager to watch it. And then when I dove into the American side, I was diving into older dogs. I was grabbing older dogs instead of getting into these puppies that I didn't know what was up with them. And so I seen these older dogs were healthier and they were producing healthy stuff, and the need for it wasn't as much, So like I said, I stuck with the new Pro that David put me on, and then the Pro Bios, a little bit of probiotics. Really, that's it, plus their diet. And the dogs do great. We got healthy, good coats on all the dogs, and I haven't seen any problems. Like I said, I started with the older dogs that have been healthy their whole life and no need for it, really. So that's the supplements that I stick with.
Gotcha. Okay. One thing that I've been touching on with people lately and talking about is veterinarians and over-vaccination. I personally believe that once, the puppy has had its round of shots, maybe once a year you want to give them, a round of shots. Of course, having a rabies shot is useful. But what is your take on that? Like, do you do your own shots? Because I always have until recently. But what is your take on that?
So as the puppies, obviously, giving them the rundown of their shots and stuff like that, and then deworming is the main thing that I worry about. And making sure all the pups and all the adult dogs are cleaned out. And other than that, I let the dogs, really be dogs. And there's a couple things that I keep around, obviously, if the dog's getting a little scuffle, which is, what is it? Silver honey, I think it's called. It's more, it's like it's a healer for antibacterial, like spray or cream that just works wonders. But other than that, I mean, just deworming, that's what I stick to. All the other stuff and the vet stuff, I think the vets just take advantage of people. I mean, unless your dog swallows something or eats something and needs a surgery to get in there and remove it, that's blocking something, a blockage, then other than that, I let the dogs just be dogs and obviously do the puppy stuff and deworm, and that's what I stick to. Every dog's healthy.
Like you said, puppy vaccinations, absolutely. Making sure they're dewormed, yes. But outside of that, I think, let the food be the medicine and the medicine be the food that they're eating.
Exactly.
And I even, a grown dog, I think it's wise to fast a grown dog one day out of the week.
Exactly.
As long as you're not...
That's a big thing that I've came across. And yes, like I started doing since when I acquired more and more dogs. It was like, all right, every Sunday we fast the dogs. And then as time went on, I was like, okay, now I watch the dogs, and obviously one day a week they're always getting fasted. But sometimes they'll be like, okay, this dog needs to be fasted earlier than this dog, you know what I mean? Or I kind of just analyze as I'm watching the dogs as when they need to be fasted, how they're eating, what dog needs to be cut back, whether I'm trying to turn it on to something else, and so on and so forth. So, but yes, definitely fasting is something that I believe in, and cleaning the dogs out. Let them get cleaned out in their digestive tract, clean it all out, and then put them back on. That's the main thing. Especially watching their stool is something that I'm always on top of. Absolutely.
I don't know. I think like my rule of thumb is, if she gets a little too heavy, I'll fast her for a day, and their metabolism works so fucking fast.
Oh yeah.
I just want to see that bottom rib, maybe 2 ribs. I don't want to see no hip. I don't really want to see no spine. And it always works. You fast them the one day, they'll clean out. I'll notice the next day, they'll shit 2-3 times as opposed to just the one, maybe 2. It cleans them right out. Let me ask you this: as far as deworming goes, how often do you actually deworm a dog?
So I'll try to deworm a dog. The pups obviously more often, but as the adult dogs, I mean 2 to 3 times a year. Is what I stick the adult dogs to, and usually obviously I'll try to keep now that the puppies are older, I keep them on track same with the adults, but about 2 to 3 times a year is what I'll do. I try to put as least amount of stuff and medications and stuff into these dogs. And the thing when I jumped into these dogs and started acquiring more was the strong will survive. And that's,
absolutely.
I want to see the most dominant dog. I want to see the dog with the best attitude, the most drive, and the healthiest dog. And at the end of that, the strong will survive. And those are the ones that are meant to be around,
Yeah, I think it's a matter of trying to set the low bar higher.
Exactly.
If I have a good line of dogs, which is funny, like I've noticed, some of the dogs that I had that were nobodies back in the day, just regular pit bulls I picked up, on the block, back home. Those were some of the healthiest dogs. I could feed them fucking pedigree, you know what I mean? And they were just fine. Solid stool, great coat, the whole 9. And then I noticed when the bully game started cooking up and people were charging an arm and a leg for a dog, I'd acquire a dog or 2 from over here or over there, and they eat the wrong thing and all of a sudden their hair's falling out.
Yeah, allergic reactions, all sorts of problems.
Yeah, all sorts of shit. So how many dogs do you have on the yard now?
I have 10 dogs at the moment.
Very cool. That seems to be like my max out. You know, if I was to ever, well, my goal is to eventually, you know, get a bigger piece of property. But even then, I think I'd max out at like 10 dogs. I just feel like I want to spend more time with each dog and, you know, develop each dog a little more.
Yeah.
And with everything else, you know, we're human beings. We have to work. There's only so many hours in the day.
Exactly. Yeah, I had up to 20, and I always told myself that was the limit, you know. And then I got to that limit, and I was all right. We're downsizing, so that's what I've been doing for a while now, was downsizing and really letting the dogs grow and testing them in different ways and picking through and, you know, getting to the nitty gritty, because it gets to be a lot after a while. A lot of people don't realize that.
Right. So walk me through a little bit of your day-to-day as far as, you know, your schedule, how you work your dogs. You know, what does your day-to-day look like in caring for 10 dogs?
So usually, obviously, you got your cleanup, but different dogs, different timing, and how the dog's developing also goes into it. For me, I'm a lot different than a lot of people with these dogs. I do different things to see different things out of the dogs, and also to develop the dogs differently than other people do.
Sure.
But so as the pups, when I'm weaning through them and seeing what dog has what, obviously different things go into that, but different dogs will get ran on different days on the mill, and then different dogs will be worked with their mouth on different days. But as a day, I'll usually run about two to three dogs. I'll run them on the mill one of the days, and then vice versa for the next day. The next three dogs will go, and I just rotate that through the week. And then same thing, the three dogs that didn't, you know, the three dogs that are going to run the next day, I'll do some bite development or send them on a rabbit. And I just pretty much flip-flop that through the week. But obviously I don't put them on game or a rabbit or anything like that so often. I do that in stages as the dog grows.
Now, when you put them on the mill, are we talking a slat mill or a carpet mill?
Slat mill.
Okay.
Wood slat mill is what I usually run them on. Or, you know, I'll switch it up also, and I'll just throw a ball with them and let them get their exercise through that also. Yeah.
Now, when you say you turn them loose on a rabbit, if they catch that rabbit, do they get to eat it just straight away?
That's another thing. So at different stages, yes. As working up, I will let the dog get frustrated and build drive if not getting to make the kill. And then at the next stage, they'll get to, you know, get a bigger rabbit and get to work with it to a point where they get to sink into it. And then the next stage, obviously, they'll get to get their kill, pretty much making the dog build that drive and accomplish something each time, but not overstimulating them is what I try to do.
Right, but more or less my question was, are you comfortable with, you know, a dog? I'm just asking because I've never done it. Are you comfortable with, if a dog gets a hold of a rabbit, would you just let the dog eat the rabbit?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
All right, because
at the right stage, yes, most definitely.
Because some people have a thing about, from what I've heard, again, I'm no expert, but from what I've heard, people say, oh, well, you got to make sure you clear the gut on the rabbit before the dog gets it. Is that something you don't really worry about?
Yeah, well, I won't let them per se eat far into it to that point where they're going to get into, you know, so much. But I mean, I'll let them eat the head and get into it where, you know, they're satisfied and they know they got their win, you know. That's the main thing is when I started working with the puppies from this last litter was, okay, when the dog got the catch, some dogs that I don't have around would be like, okay, they got the catch, the rabbit stopped moving, you know. That was a strike for the dog, so that dog was gone. Now, when the dog was locked in and was possessing it and trying to keep going even after the rabbit was deceased, then that's what I'm looking for. Okay, the next time I let him go, I'm going to, you know, let him get into it more. And, yeah, I don't have too much of a problem with that, obviously, because those rabbits I'm growing out. Now, if I'm going to take the dogs out on some wild stuff, now I'm going to be more obviously watching that part. But for the most part, yeah, I don't mind that at the right stage. If they're younger, I worry about them getting into something. But
okay, that makes sense. So how about the hips and joints? Have you ever experienced any problems in the American Corso?
No, that's the thing. Since I've had them and acquired them, I haven't seen no hip issues. I've had dogs. I think the oldest dog that I have I think he's 8. I think he's 8. Turned 8 in January, and he moves and grooves. He runs. He's good. And then I also had a female that I don't have anymore. She was 7 years old. She's at a pet home now, but she was 7, and yeah, she had good hips, run, and she acted just like a puppy. And I mean, drive for days, and yeah, nothing, no hip or joint issues have ever held any of these dogs back.
That's cool. Okay.
The Brick City style, they are that heavy Neo and the Roddy, more or less.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is when these pups, now that as they're getting older and I'm working with them and stuff, I see, like I took a video last night on my story, and I mean, you hear the pit in there though a little bit. Also, you hear the squealing, you know, the screech, that cry.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what I like to see
that war
in there.
cry.
That I know it's in there. So
that war cry.
Exactly.
Yeah. It all stemmed from Mike Satilli, correct?
Yeah, definitely Mike Satilli.
And it was like what, six puppies or something that it started for. It's fuzzy for me.
Yeah, the Super 6, that's what his stuff started from. They like to portray it as and stuff. I'm sure there's dogs out there that we don't know of that were key points that were used, that were, you know, that should have been probably put out there because they were probably dope dogs. But yeah, for the most part, yeah, those Super 6 dogs are the dogs that people are trying to resemble and with their breeding tactics and get back to, for the most part.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're impressive. They're very impressive.
Yeah, really nice dogs.
So the American Corso, same-sex aggression, is that prevalent on your yard?
So that was a big thing also. So I acquired the dog from David, and then I also acquired another male and another female out from Reno, and it was the son and the mother. And they were the mother was 7 years old, the son was 2 years old, and I have 2 pups off that litter that I kept back. But the mom, very dominant dog. I mean, the dog has from the people I got her from, she's killed like 8 dogs that they had at their yard also out in Reno. Very dominant, the boss of the house, obviously out there. And so when I got her, the dog was real aggressive with anything really, and had crazy drive, but yeah, was not friendly to any other dogs. So that, yeah, same sex, and pretty much with any other dog, was these dogs will get down with on the yard. So that's a big thing. I mean, even when she was pregnant, she got in a scuffle with her son. She got in a scuffle with the Brick City male that I have here. I mean, and she could barely, you know, she got knocked down on her back and she couldn't even roll over because she was so pregnant. It was like, I mean, the dog just wants to get down with every other dog. It's like, dude, it becomes a lot after a while. But yeah, that's the main thing that I have to monitor here, is the dogs getting at each other. So for the most part, they're kept separate, and I can take a dog out, certain dogs out together, but if there is something that they will possess, yeah, they're definitely, or food or anything, yeah, they're gonna get into it.
Now, do you think those scuffles came from defense drives, rank drives, fight drives? Where do you think it actually came from based on their body language? Was it all about possession and rank, or was it just like for a pit bull, when they go at it, it's just the need to compete. They don't give a shit. Whereas the Mastiff dogs and Rottweilers and things like that, they'll fight more over possession and dominance and more of trying to claim rank. Where do you be? And I only ask that because I know the American Corso has pit bull in it. So do you think the fighting came from the rank drive, or do you think it came from the competitive fight drive?
I'd say the drive, the competitive drive, and possession for sure.
So it was a combination.
Definitely, definitely a combination of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, definitely the ranking though, because they, if they are whatever ones are out with each other, they will definitely be sizing each other up right off the get. That's, and it's usually no matter what dog's out, it'll be tense. They got the side eye at each other at all times, and like I said, if anything that they can possess is out and about, they'll get them up.
Nice. I gotcha. So as far as the blue coat, that's in your dogs as well, but in a lot of Mastiff types, Corsos, Neos, have you ever experienced any skin issues with the blue coat?
No, the only thing that I have ran into with a coat issue is one of the females, when she had her litter, obviously some dogs will shed, they'll mulch almost after they, have gave birth and stuff like that. But other than that, I haven't had no coat issue or allergy or anything like that besides a little bit of shedding after she gave birth.
Yeah, my blue bitch Zuma, she when she has a litter, her coat is blown out, fucked up while she's feeding them. And then as soon as she's done feeding the puppies, it comes back, no mange, no nothing. I think that kind of just comes with the territory. Because I've seen it in other dogs too, no matter what color. Like, they're giving all their nutrients to their puppies.
Yeah, it happens. I think that's just one of those things.
Yeah. All right. Well, where can people get a hold of you?
I'm on Facebook a little bit. I got a little page on there. I don't really post directly on there. It's mostly my Instagram at Connie Corso Kings. But Instagram is usually what I stick to, and kind of just like to show the dogs off and show that Brick City stuff and that old school American stuff is still around, and that old school nasty dog is still here, because a lot of these dogs nowadays are watered down. They don't have the same fight. They don't have the same temperament of being themselves, and that's pretty much what I'm trying to keep producing and keep alive out here.